Clara, 31, was working on her laptop at a café in Jardín Paulista when a stunning man sat beside her and said, "Your wife is with my husband." He leaned in, smiled mischievously, and whispered, "Forget her. Go out with me tonight." Clara said yes immediately, and that decision changed her life completely. The man introduced himself as Marcos. He slid his phone across the table, showing a photo of Roberta, Clara's wife, with her hand on another man's face, Lucas, Marcos' husband. They had been having an affair for 6 months. Marcos had hired a private investigator after finding a secret cell phone in Lucas's gym bag. The investigator followed Lucas for 2 weeks, discovering the affair with Roberta. Clara met Roberta 7 years ago at a networking event in downtown São Paulo. Clara was 24, freshly graduated with an MBA. Roberta was 26, working as a financial analyst at a prestigious investment firm. They talked for hours that first night, connecting over their ambitions and frustrations with corporate culture. The first few years of their marriage were magical. Roberta was thoughtful and romantic, leaving notes on the bathroom mirror, surprising Clara with flowers. They bought a small house in Pinheiros and talked about filling it with children someday. Their friends envied them, saying how lucky they were to have found each other. But around the 3rd year, everything started to crack. Roberta was promoted to senior analyst, which brought long hours and constant stress. She started coming home later and later. Intimacy slowly faded. Sex went from passionate to routine to rare. They stopped touching each other with intent. About 6 months before the encounter with Marcos, things visibly worsened. Roberta started working late more often, client dinners, emergency meetings, weekend conferences. She joined a gym after work. She started buying expensive perfume she never wore at home. She changed her phone password without mentioning it. She started taking calls in another room. When Clara suggested a vacation together, Roberta said work was too busy. When Clara planned a date night, Roberta canceled last minute. When Clara asked if everything was okay between them, Roberta became defensive, saying Clara was being paranoid. Clara started doubting her own instincts, wondering if maybe she was the problem. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. She just didn't want to look directly at it. After Marcos showed that photo, Clara should have gone home to confront Roberta like a rational adult. But she was tired of being responsible, tired of being the wife who waited patiently at home while her partner built a secret life with someone else. "Forget her," Marcos said, his voice dropping lower. "Go out with me tonight." Every rational thought in Clara's head said no, but for the first time in her life, she wanted to do something impulsive and reckless. "Yes," Clara said immediately. Marcos smiled. "Great. Meet me at Terraço do Itaim at 8 p.m. Don't overthink it." Before going home, Clara checked Roberta's location sharing. They had set it up years ago for practical reasons. The app showed Roberta was not at her office downtown, but at an address in Moema that Clara didn't recognize, an upscale apartment building. It was 2:30 p.m. on a workday. Roberta was supposed to be at the office. Instead, she was at a residential address that wasn't theirs. At home, Clara went straight to the bedroom. In Roberta's nightstand drawer, she found mints, the expensive perfume in a sleek bottle, and a leather-bound notebook with dates and times, a meticulous record of the affair. The notes dated back 7 months, not 6, as Marcos had said. In the closet, in a shoebox on the top shelf, Clara found hotel receipts from all over São Paulo, dozens of them, dates going back 7 months. Beneath the receipts was a handwritten card on expensive thin paper. "Counting the days until I see you again. You make everything better, L." There was also a printed email confirmation for an inn in Campos do Itaim. The dates matched a weekend when Roberta said she had a work conference in Curitiba. She had taken Lucas to the place Clara and Roberta had talked about visiting for their anniversary. Clara got ready carefully. She put on a black wrap dress she hadn't worn in over a year. She applied elaborate makeup. She styled her hair in loose waves. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Not because she looked different, but because the woman looking back seemed awake, alert, alive. At the Itaim Terrace, Marcos waited for her at the bar. He was stylish in dark jeans and a fitted navy shirt. When he saw her walk in, his entire face changed. Real pleasure, as if seeing her was the best part of his day. When was the last time Roberta looked at Clara like that? She couldn't remember. They talked for hours about their lives, their failed marriages, the dreams they had before life got complicated. Marcos told her about his architectural firm, about designing affordable housing for communities in need, how Lucas always thought he should go into commercial development, where the real money was. Clara talked about her marketing job at the tech startup, about the long hours, how throwing herself into her career became a way to avoid going home. Around midnight, they left and walked along the sidewalk. Marcos stopped walking and turned to face Clara fully. "Clara," he said softly, "I know this is insane. We just met this afternoon, but I don't regret any of it." "Neither do I," Clara whispered. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. Clara should have said no, but she didn't want to. Yes, she said. He kissed her with certainty and depth, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Clara felt whole and frighteningly alive. "Come home with me," Marcos said softly. "Yes," Clara whispered. Marcos's apartment in Villa Olympia was modern and well-designed, exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines. He had designed most of the interior himself. They sat on the couch and talked until the sky began to lighten, about childhood memories and family dynamics, about career aspirations and the compromises they made, about the lives they imagined versus the ones they were actually living. Marcos told her about his parents in Curitiba, married for 42 years, still holding hands, still laughing at each other's jokes, how they set an example of what marriage could be when both people truly show up. Clara told him about her parents in Ribeirão Preto and their functional but passionless marriage, how they coexisted more than they lived together. Around 5 a.m., they moved to his bedroom. Not for sex, just to lie down, to be close to someone who understood what it felt like to watch a marriage slowly die. "When are you going to tell Roberta?" Marcos asked softly. "Today," Clara said. "This morning. I'm done pretending I don't know." The next morning, Marcos drove Clara back to the coffee shop where it all began. She drove home, her heart pounding. Roberta was in the kitchen making coffee. She wore the suit Clara bought her for her birthday. She barely looked up from her phone when Clara walked in. "How's Beatrice?" Roberta asked distractedly, referring to Clara's best friend. Clara placed her bag on the counter. She took a deep breath. "I wouldn't know," she said. "I wasn't with Beatrice." Roberta looked up. "What?" "I was with Marcos," Clara said calmly. "Lucas's husband. You know, the man you've been sleeping with for the past 7 months." All the color drained from Roberta's face. Her phone slipped from her hand. "Clara." "No." Clara held up her hand. "I don't want explanations. I don't want excuses. I just want a divorce." Clara walked past Roberta towards the bedroom. Roberta followed her, words tumbling out in a desperate rush. She was stressed. Work was overwhelming. She made a terrible mistake. She loved Clara. She would do anything to fix this. Clara pulled her suitcase from the closet and began to pack. Just her clothes, personal items, things that were definitely hers. "Clara, please," Roberta pleaded. "Don't do this. We can fix this. I'll break up with Lucas. I'll quit my job if that's what it takes." Clara zipped up her suitcase. She turned to face Roberta. "You had 7 months to choose me," she said calmly. 7 months to decide that our marriage was worth fighting for. You chose him every single day. Now I'm choosing myself. "But I love you." "No, you don't love me," Clara said. "You love the idea of having me as a backup, but you don't truly love me. If you did, you would never have done this." Clara walked towards the door. Roberta grabbed her arm. "You said you were with Marcos, Lucas's husband. What does that mean?" Clara looked at Roberta's hand on her arm, then at her face. "Exactly what you think it means," she said. She broke free and walked out of the house, out of the marriage, out of the life she had been trying so hard to save. In the rearview mirror, she saw Roberta standing in the driveway, looking lost and smaller than she had ever seen her. Clara didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel sad. She just felt free. Clara found a 1-bedroom apartment in Villa Madalena available immediately. 6-month lease. I signed the contract 2 hours later. Her best friend Beatrice helped her move. When Beatrice heard everything, she hugged Clara tight. "I'm proud of you," she said, "for choosing yourself. You could have stayed, you could have tried to fix it. Instead, you left. That takes courage." Marcos texted Clara every day, never pushy, just checking in on how she was, offering support if she needed it. They started seeing each other regularly. Coffee dates, walks through different neighborhoods of Sao Paulo, dinner at quiet restaurants where they could talk for hours. 3 weeks after Clara left Roberta, Beatrice insisted on meeting Marcos. At brunch, Beatrice was impressed. After Marcos went to the restroom, Beatrice leaned across the table. "Okay, he's unfairly handsome. I was prepared to hate him on principle because of how this started, but he seems genuine, and he looks at you like you hung the moon." She squeezed Clara's hand. "Roberta never looked at you like that, not even at the beginning." Over the next few months, news about Roberta and Lucas came through mutual acquaintances. Roberta wasn't doing well. She was passed over for that VP promotion she'd been working towards. Officially, they cited leadership qualities and professional judgment, but everyone knew the real reason. The firm took a dim view of affairs that created public embarrassment. Marcos officially filed for divorce. Lucas tried to fight it at first, but eventually accepted the terms. 6 months after Clara left Roberta, Beatrice texted, "I heard Roberta resigned from her firm. took a position at some smaller company in Campinas. Big pay cut. Clara stared at that message for a long time. She tried to feel something, but all she felt was a distant kind of emptiness, like hearing about a stranger's misfortune. Good for her, she typed back. And she meant it, not sarcastically, just neutrally. 1 year after that coffee date, Clara and Marcos were having dinner at a restaurant in Jardines when they saw Roberta and Lucas at a table across the restaurant. Clara's stomach dropped. Marcos took her hand under the table, anchoring her. Roberta and Lucas weren't touching. They weren't leaning into each other. They sat on opposite sides of the table with the body language of two people enduring dinner rather than enjoying it. They didn't look happy. As Clara and Marcos were leaving, Roberta looked up. Their eyes met. Roberta's face went pale. Lucas turned, saw them, and his expression hardened. Roberta stood up and walked towards Clara. "Clara," she said, "can we talk?" Clara looked at Roberta. This person she loved, this person she married, this person who lied to her face for 7 months. "There's nothing to talk about," Clara said calmly. I want you to know I'm sorry for everything. I was selfish and stupid. I destroyed the best thing I ever had." "I appreciate that," Clara said, "but I've moved on. You should too." Roberta's eyes flickered to Marcos, to his hand on Clara's back. "You're with him." "That's no longer your concern," Clara said. "Goodbye, Roberta." Clara and Marcos walked out. The cool night air felt like a relief. "Are you okay?" Marcos asked. "Yes," Clara said, and it was true. I felt nothing. Not anger, not hurt, just nothing. Like encountering someone I knew a long time ago. 3 months later, Clara's apartment lease in Villa Madalena was ending. Clara and Marcos were having dinner at his apartment when he brought it up. "Your lease ends next month," he said. "Or you could move in here." Clara looked at him. "Are you sure?" "Clara, you're here 5 nights a week anyway. Your toothbrush is in my bathroom. Your clothes are in my closet. We're already living together in all but name. I want this to be our space, not mine. Ours." Clara felt tears prick her eyes, the happy ones. "Yes," she said. "Absolutely yes." Moving in together was perfect. They painted the walls, hung Clara's artwork next to Marcos's architectural plans, combined their book collections, created a space that felt like both of them. One evening, unpacking the last box, Marcos hugged Clara from behind. "Thank you," he said, "for saying yes, that first night at the coffee shop, for taking a chance on something completely insane." Clara turned in his arms.